welcome to Moving Well. Today we're working on a lesson for healthy necks and shoulders. So remember the essentials. We want to move slowly, pay attention, give yourself 100% of your attention, and feel free to ask any questions at any point in time. Remember that you should never be in any pain or discomfort, because that keeps your brain busy attending to the pain and discomfort, and you're not available for new learning. And this is all about learning. So as we continue, and as we begin and continue, I will be reminding you of the essentials. And so go ahead and lay on your back. And as you're lying there, just begin tuning into yourself. Get a sense of your overall contact on the floor. Notice where you're resting on the floor. Notice where there are spaces. Notice if there's any discomfort any place. And notice your right side and your left side. Feel pretty comparable one to the other, or do you notice a significant difference between the right side and the left side? And then pay attention to your heels, your right heel and your left heel. And when I say pay attention to your heels, notice things like the leaning point of each heel. Notice the direction that your toes point on the right foot and the left foot. And then, aware of the direction that your toes point, be aware as you scan up your right leg, through your lower leg to your knee. Notice the direction that your knee points. And then continue through your upper leg to your right hip joint. Notice the parts that touch and the parts that do not touch. And then shift your attention to your left leg, your left heel, noting the direction your toes point on the left. And continue through your ankle, your lower leg, your knee, your upper leg, to your hip joint. Again, noticing the parts that are touching, noticing if there are spaces. And focus for a moment on your hip joints. Can you get a sense of where they are in your pelvis? One thing that helps to kind of locate that is to just gently roll your leg, your foot and leg a little to the left and a little to the right. Just a real small movement. It doesn't take much to get a sensation in your hip joint. Just so you have a sense of where your right hip joint is and where your left hip joint. Just play with that a little bit. Just turning your leg, rotating your leg, first one and then the other. And notice things like, is there a difference between how the right leg rotates and how the left leg rotates? Feel the way your pelvis is resting on the floor. Are you heavier on one side than the other? Can you sense your tailbone at the very base of your spine, at the bottom of your sacrum, that flat bone in the middle of your pelvis? Notice what part of your sacrum you're resting on at the beginning of the lesson. Now, notice, is there space behind your low back? If so, how much space? So continuing from the top of your sacrum, through your low back area, through your mid back area where your ribs begin to attach. See if you can sense your ribs on the right and your ribs on the left. Continue on up between your shoulder blades, all the way to the base of your neck, and then continue on up to the base of your head. And feel the weight of your head on the floor. Again, pay attention to the leaning point now at the beginning of the lesson, and often that's one of the things we notice that's different, is the leaning point of our head is different. Our head rests differently. Now feel your right shoulder blade, your left shoulder blade. Scan from the tip of your right shoulder through your upper arm to your elbow, from your elbow to your right wrist, and then on through your hand, your fingers and thumb. And then do the same thing on the left. Feel your left shoulder blade, and then the relationship with your left upper arm, the way your arm is organized from your shoulder to your elbow, from your elbow to your wrist, through your palm and your fingers. Get a sense of the distance from your pelvis that your hands are resting. And notice where there are spaces and where there is contact. All right, now gently roll your head a little bit right and a little bit left, just to feel what's easy in movement with your neck. Now, the reality is we don't have a neck per se. In reality, we have one long spine, and then what we call the neck is just the part that sticks out above our shoulders. And where we get into trouble is we start losing the connection through our entire spine. Our neck was never meant to turn alone. The way our spine is designed is that each vertebra turns a little bit. And if we're engaging more and more of our spine as we turn from right to left in our daily activities, the more fluid movement we will have in our neck, the more comfortable movement we will have in our neck. So in this lesson, we're going to be exploring the relationship between our pelvis and the movement of our head and our neck and our shoulders. Now, we've talked about this some before. Most people have heard of the term core power. And for most people, the thinking with core power is thinking that we need to have tight, powerfully sucked in abdominal muscles. And that thinking is actually a mistake. In this work, we refer more to our power center, and that's the most powerful muscles of our body. These are the muscles that are attached to the pelvis. They're the back muscles, the abdominal muscles, and also the diagonal muscles. The diagonal muscles is what allows us to turn and twist. But so in order to have a very powerful, alive, skillful body, these muscles have to be used as they're designed to be used, and they're designed to work in harmony. And what I mean by that is that if your abdominal muscles are chronically contracted, if you're real good at sucking your belly in, that means your back muscles literally are shut off and not available for healthy functioning. And vice versa, if your back muscles are tight, your belly has to let go. So that's a clue. If you let go of your belly, your back muscles can work. Now the diagonal muscles also have to be available. And if we have our back muscles or our abdominal muscles chronically contracted, the diagonal muscles cannot work well either, and we cannot turn well. So in this lesson, we're going to be learning how to free our abdominal muscles and to use our back muscles more powerfully. So remember, you want to move very slowly and gently. Check your ambition at the door. Give up the idea of doing powerful, strong movements or large movements, because we're not going to get there by force or extra effort. We'll get there through applying our intelligence and not by force. So feel free to engage your enthusiasm about any change, because that really wakes up your brain and gets it in action. And just pay lots and lots of attention to your movements. You're the center of your attention today. So now in your mind's eye, follow your spine, your vertebra by vertebra, all the way down your spine to the tip of your tailbone. And as you're doing this, really be aware of your ribs on the right and your ribs on the left, and where they connect to your vertebra, your spine behind, and also to your sternum, your breastbone in front. And again, take note of the way your arms are resting at this point. Now roll to your right side and sit up. Sit with your left leg bent forward and your right leg bent backwards. The right leg is bent backwards, left leg is bent forward. Lean on your right hand and just begin to turn to look to the right and just feel what it's like to look now. Okay. That's not going to work. We need a way. Okay. How about if we give you a chair and you can do the movements. Let me give you this chair because it's going to be more conducive to movement. Yeah. We'll just push the mat back. And as I was reading through Moshe's lessons, some of his lessons, I was, what's the word I want to use? I thought, well, he's a genius, and he's getting his rights and lefts mixed up, so I guess I don't have to feel so bad when I mix up my rights and lefts. So, all right. So now, where were we? Let me get rid of some of my stuff here. Well, the thought is popping into my head, so I don't forget it. On the refresher lessons, what I decided to do is to, normally I'll have the sign-in sheet for you, but I'm going to email them to you.
I like it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That,
Thank you.
that's, it's easier for me and a little less expensive. So, not that one time isn't enough, but I have 2 classes, and I'm working on creating, pardon me for the interruption, but I'm working on what I'd like to create, if somebody is really computer savvy, is a way to have like 2 columns, have the actions on one side and comments on the other side. I'm just putting that out there for, I tried doing it in Excel, but that's kind of, yeah. Anyway, so with that said, where were we? Come back to, say you're on your right side, your left knee is touching the sole of your right foot. Lean on your right hand beside you and turn to look to the right and feel what it is like to turn your head to look right.
Would you say the knee's supposed to be touching the?
Your left knee is touching the sole of your right foot.
That's flipped.
No, it's like this. Right knee is touching my left foot.
You were right.
What are we doing?
Yeah, you're right. Put your right knee back. No, put it back where you had it. Mm-hmm. Well, and no, it's not going to work because most people are uncomfortable, so this lesson is not going to work. So everybody lay on your back. Okay. Reassess how you're lying now. Just notice, is anything different just from having gone through all the sitting and the...
More of my legs are
Oh, everybody's going to leave crippled. Okay, we are going to do a breathing lesson. A breathing lesson. Oh my goodness. Yeah, breathing lessons are really powerful. You'll be amazed at how, with your breath, you can open up areas in yourself. So bend your knees, put your feet standing on the floor, spread comfortably, which is usually about hip width apart. Put your right hand on your stomach, your left hand on your chest, and just monitor your breathing. And when I say stomach, your lower belly. And feel for, as you're just laying there breathing normally now, just notice what kind of movement you've experienced. Do you feel movement in your chest? Do you feel movement in your belly? And if you feel it in your belly, how low in your belly do you feel it? Do you feel movement all the way down to your pubic bone? So as we're notice, does your belly or your chest raise first? And just monitor it without thinking of changing it. In general, we're so used to having our hands resting on our stomach that we can have it there without really having any awareness of what's happening there. So just pay attention to which hand raises first. Does your abdomen or your chest raise first? Which one opens first as air begins coming into your lungs? As we're doing this now, there are three different things to listen to. First, there's the lower part of your abdomen, like way down near your pubic bone. And then there's the upper part of your abdomen that's nearer to your stomach. And then finally, there's your chest. So your right hand's going to be monitoring your belly, and your left hand's going to be monitoring your chest. Now notice, it may sound silly, but many people don't even have movement in their chest as they breathe. Yeah, isn't? See, you learn something new about yourself. Now remember, not all of our ribs attach to our chest bone, but the action of our ribs, our joints, and our muscles that hang on the sternum, well, their action actually kind of gets canceled with faulty breathing habits. They become inactive. And also the positioning of our head plays an impact on this. So pay attention if you can feel your chest lifting from the floor or not. It really needs to lift a significant amount. And don't lift it intentionally, just monitor it. Pay attention to what it is. And only pay attention if it's lifting. Can you feel your sternum move? Often when our chest is immobilized, and in lessons we've talked a lot about our chest becoming rigid and that having an impact on our neck and on our low back. So if our ribs, and especially our upper ribs, aren't moving, then our floating ribs have to make an extra effort to breathe. But what that means is that we're living on a tiny amount of air. Now put both your hands down on either side of your pubic bone, just so your fingertips are touching your pubic bone. This is one of Moshe's lessons. He said, down in that area where every decent Jew has a hernia. So anyway, that's where you put your hands. So just begin paying attention to any feelings of opening when air enters your lungs. That means that air pushes your fingers upwards. Anybody having any challenge finding that area? There are a number of different breathing exercises, but what this lesson is going to be doing is waking up and activating the muscles that are needed to really be doing healthy breathing. And then once that happens, then healthy breathing is spontaneous. So begin expelling all the air out of your lungs, and then hold your breath for about 10 seconds after you've exhaled. And then exhale again. And hold your breath for a couple seconds and then exhale again. That means you're continually pushing out the air. And then afterwards, the pulling of the air into your body is done completely differently than when we do an intentional inhale. If you continue exhaling, exhaling, exhaling till you absolutely cannot anymore, then the air will, you can just quit exhaling and the air will literally gush in or rush in. And so continue to repeat this, exhaling, exhaling, exhaling. And when you get really good at it, there'll be a spontaneous coughing when you actually empty your lungs completely that way. We have one cougher. See, it's helping to clear out the lungs. So exhale, pause without inhaling, exhale again, and hold for a couple seconds, and then exhale again. And if air isn't sneaking in between, it's going to make you cough. So maybe you're feeling like it's close to doing that. So we're going to try something else now. So continue exhaling that way. So you're exhaling, exhaling, exhaling. And then just before it becomes involuntary, begin coughing on purpose. And put both hands down near your pubic bone when you do that. So what happens down there under your fingers when you cough?
Clenching.
Pardon?
Clenching.
You're clenching what, your teeth or your... Yeah, okay, so you feel the muscles.
Yeah, spasm.
Well, that's an indication that you're getting an effective cough, and that these muscles can become tight and constricted chronically. And so freeing them up allows for a deeper inhalation. Now just go ahead and lengthen your legs and rest. Pay attention to any change in your contact with the floor. And then bend your knees again, stand your feet. Now, begin slowly exhaling through your mouth, just very slowly letting the air out of your mouth while you're just comfortable there. Open your mouth wide, let the air out, and push your lower abdomen out as you did when you were coughing. You remember how you felt down near your pubic bone? And don't wait until you need to cough. Let the air out slowly and push your abdomen out. And then after the air is exhaled, close your mouth and swallow your saliva and let air enter your lungs again without interrupting the intake of the air. Open your mouth. Oh, I love his wording. Open your mouth as if you wanted to bite your hand. Pay attention that your tongue lies on the lower part of your jaw and touches your bottom teeth so the edges of your tongue touch your teeth. In other words, you want your tongue relaxed. It's not contracted, and it's just resting there quietly. Let the air out of your lungs at the same time. Don't expel all the air. You don't have to force it all. Just stop when it becomes uncomfortable. Just breathe that way. And notice the length of your exhalation to start with now. And just exhale slowly. And as you exhale, slowly push your lower abdomen out. It'll probably help if you keep your hands on your lower abdomen so your fingertips are by your lower abdomen. That brings your attention there more. And pay attention to your hands after the air's out. After the air's out, swallow and let the air come back in. And notice it'll come back in at the speed that it wants, as far as it wants. Just pay attention to what is it for you right now. And just wait until you feel like your inhaling is enough. And then push your abdomen out as you exhale through your mouth. And pause and rest and just breathe naturally, what's natural for you right now. He says that the intention of this lesson is not to learn a new way of breathing, but rather it's returning your body to its ability to breathe the way it was designed to. So we're not teaching our body how to breathe. So the reason for swallowing your saliva, after you swallow your saliva, your lower abdomen opens as air enters your lungs. It is called the deglutition reflex or swallow reflex. So go ahead, bend your knees again and start doing that again with that kind of information. And see if that's true. This 50-year-old wisdom, 60-year-old wisdom. So after swallowing your saliva, your lower abdomen opens as air enters your lungs. It is called the deglutition reflex or swallowing reflex. this is interesting. Of course, as in all important parts of the body, you always use the mouth for more than one activity. People talk, eat, and drink, etc. with their mouths. It's important that food should not enter the windpipe while people eat. So something closes your windpipe while you eat and opens it when you breathe. You cannot breathe when the epiglottis flap is closed because air cannot enter or leave your windpipe. That is why you inhale reflexively after swallowing. It is built into the human system that the windpipe opens for breathing after swallowing. This movement was designed for the body, and your nervous system demands it. So now we're learning how to not interfere with it and to do it again. Okay, so now intentionally exhale, having the air leave your lungs as your lower belly extends. And at the end of your exhalation, close your mouth and swallow. And pay attention to what happens while you swallow. After you swallow your saliva, you will begin breathing involuntarily. Is that picture getting clearer to you? Pardon? Ah. The beginning, I guess having a good understanding of what's going on helps, doesn't it? The beginning of the breath happens as you swallow, when the lowest part of your lower abdomen opens. That means that your diaphragm moves down because the muscles at the bottom of your pelvis allow it to. Your diaphragm cannot open if there are contractions in your abdominal muscles. So during the movement of swallowing, you don't need those lower muscles. That's what's meant by opening. It's as if that area opens and when it lets go. And then the air comes in. We're all connected, guys. So just continue, make about 30 movements as I've just described. So you start with the swallowing, and then the air comes in. And just with your hands at your lower belly, just pay attention. Do you feel your lower abdomen opening right after swallowing? And do you sense air entering your lungs right after that? And let yourself inhale and exhale through your mouth. Now, all the instructions that I'm giving you now are in the lesson. They're not designed for you to be doing this in your daily life, unless you're going to take time to just reinforce what we're learning in today's lesson. But as we do these movements in the lessons, our body can learn to feel and discern and use our parts according to what they're necessary for. It helps our body become wiser. Not necessarily that we have to, it's a body wisdom. It's not necessarily an intellectual thing, but we use our intellect to reinforce this in our body. So there are a lot of different breathing techniques that are taught, but what he has done with his breathing lessons is to essentially retrain our body to respond and to breathe the way it was designed to. And then just pause and let yourself rest for a moment. And then come back. And just take a moment to feel it. Do you notice a difference in your breathing from having done this much? And if so, how is it different? What do you notice? Now, now begin letting the air out through your nose. So you exhale through your nose. Notice if your exhalation becomes shorter when you exhale through your nose. And it frequently is, because most of us, maybe especially in Michigan, have stuffy nose and sinuses. Yeah, you're right. In this room, it only makes it worse. So when there's too much mucus inside our nasal passages, they become smaller, so it makes it harder to exhale. So often in order to exhale through our nose, we have to exhale more forcefully. But when we exhale more forcefully, we exhale more of the air, and that that allows more air to come in. But if we're not exhaling forcefully, we're only getting rid of a small portion of the air. And if we've got old stale air hanging out in there, then exhalation becomes shorter and shorter. And the more air that we can let out, the longer our breath becomes. So again, go back to letting the air out through your nose, letting your lower abdomen extend. And if you want to put your fingers back down by your pubic bone to sense the extension of your lower abdomen just above your pubic bone. And now, you're going to have to take one of your hands. You begin letting your air out through only your right nostril. That means that you have to use your hand and close your left nostril. So you're going to inhale through your mouth and exhale using your right nostril. Some people may find that you can't exhale through your right nostril at all. Does that ring true for any of you? Okay. Well, even if your right nostril isn't working very well, do it anyway. It's important because your nostril will free as you continue breathing. And intentionally, both nostrils, excuse me, both nostrils should be free by the time we're done with this lesson. And this, being in this room gives us the handicap that's going to make us work harder. So let the air in through your mouth and out through your nostril. And notice, do you hear noise? Ideally, we should not hear any noise. But if there is noise, which frequently there is, so while the smaller the passage, there's a proportional amount of air that leaves and more noise. So if it's difficult and you're making noise, then exhale very slowly. So let the air in through your mouth and out through your nostril. This should be good for Michigan and sinus weather. Okay, now switch and let the air out through your left nostril only. And always push your lower abdomen out as you exhale. This is a two-part movement. So you're letting the air out only through your left nostril, and you're pushing your lower abdomen out as you exhale. We talk often about chronic muscular contractions. This is another level of where we have muscles chronically contracted. So always push your lower abdomen out as you exhale. Letting the air out of your left nostril only. And now let the air out through both your nostrils. Still inhaling through your mouth, exhaling through both nostrils, pushing your lower belly out. And did it make any difference? Is it any easier now? If you notice any difference at all, just raise your hand. Only 2, 3 people? I think it's the room. The more breathing you do, the worse it gets. Okay, just pause and rest. Lengthen your legs and rest for a moment. And besides paying attention to any changes in your contact with the floor, really focus on your inhalation and your exhalation. Without making anything happen, just notice now, after just putting this much attention on your breathing, is there a difference in where you feel expansion as you inhale and decompression as you exhale? And then bend your knees again, stand your feet. And now begin doing the following. After swallowing your saliva and allowing air to enter your lungs, push the air from your lower abdomen as before. And start by letting the air leave through your mouth. And then halfway through your exhalation, have it leave through your nostrils. And continue switching back and forth between your mouth and your nostrils until you can do 3 or 4 exchanges in one breath. Is that clear what I mean? As you're exhaling through your mouth, and you're going to switch between exhaling through your mouth and exhaling through your nose. You're going to go back and forth between your nose exhaling and your mouth exhaling, and do it, and continue exhaling till you can't exhale anymore. So you start by letting air leave through your mouth, and then you switch partway through your exhalation and have it leave through your nostrils. And then you switch back to it leaving through your mouth. And continue, allowing yourself to exhale slowly and continue until you can do 3 or 4 exchanges between mouth exhalation and nose exhalation. And now, if you can, if it's comfortable for you to roll onto your abdomen and lay on your abdomen, do that. If not, continue doing this on your back. So once you're on your stomach, you're going to continue this letting the air out like this, alternating between your mouth and nose several times during an exhalation. And push your lower abdomen to the floor as you're exhaling. So you're doing exactly the same as you did before, but here you can clearly feel how you push your lower abdomen out. So you push the lower part of your abdomen below your stomach into the floor. Does this seem like a natural thing to do when you're lying on your stomach? More natural than when you're lying on your back? And again, you're alternating between exhaling through your mouth and exhaling through your nose. Now notice if you push the right side of your lower abdomen, and if you push the right side and the left side the same, is there a difference? Does one side of your abdomen respond more to pushing into the floor, pushing it out? Just notice. And you're alternating, letting the air out through your nose and your nostrils during the exhalation. And then return to your back. And just focus on yourself for a few moments. Notice anything that is different. Notice if your breathing is changed. Do you feel more of your torso responding to inhaling and exhaling? Now, one last time, bend your knees, stand your feet. And as you're breathing here, for 10 breaths, let exhale through your mouth. But just breathe normally. And pay attention, if it gets easier to do. And if your exhalation is any longer than before, then just don't force the air out. Just let the air out slowly through an open mouth. And just notice if it's any different than before. And by different, I mean, is there any difference in the length, in the simplicity of it, or the ease of it? And notice, does it feel like you changed the quantity of air that you can let out? Do you feel your lower abdomen opening to let air enter as you let the air into your lungs? Can you feel that without putting your fingers on your lower abdomen? So we're looking to see, do you notice, as you're breathing like this now, do you notice a sensation of opening at your lower abdomen? And then just begin breathing normally as you usually do. And just notice, does it feel any more comfortable or less comfortable? Now put your right hand on your chest and your left hand on your lower abdomen. Do you feel the movement in your chest as you breathe? Can you feel that your chest raises and lowers your hand? Does that seem any clearer than before, the movement of your chest? And then leave it alone. Lengthen your legs for a moment again. What's the first thing that got your attention as you lengthened your legs and focused in? Is your contact with the floor any different? Is there a difference in how you feel yourself on the right side and on the left side? As you're breathing now, does it feel like more of yourself is opening up to the breath that comes in? Does it feel like you're exhaling more fully? Now take a few moments to imagine, with your new breathing capacity, how you're going to roll yourself and slowly come to sitting and then to standing on the floor off your mat. And you want to come onto the floor so you've got a solid surface under your feet. There. Now you can really feel the connection of your feet on the floor. So take a few moments and just go inside as you're standing there now and notice the contact of your feet with the floor. And follow that contact up through your ankles and lower legs, your knees and your upper legs to your hip joints. And then from your tailbone on through your sacrum and up your spine, your low back, your mid back, between your shoulder blades, your neck, and your head. Feel the way your shoulder blades are hanging on your back. And just notice, can you take a breath and let it out and also let your shoulder blades go? That's one place that we tend to kind of hold things up without even knowing that we're doing it. And then just turn your head a little left and a little right. And as you're slowly turning your head a little left and a little right, kind of in the background, think of your skeleton and notice if you notice a subtle shift in energy going right to left or a subtle shift in your weight from right to left. It goes through your skeleton, through your spine, and on down through your legs. And then lastly, just bring your attention into your breathing. What do you notice that's different in your breathing? And did this 50-year-old lesson have an impact? Did it make a difference? Notice, where do you feel the expansion as you inhale and exhale? Do you feel it going deeper in your torso? Do you feel it expanding from front to back or from right to left? Maybe all around? And then just let it go and walk around. Still keeping your attention on you, the most important person in the room. Just giving attention to anything that catches your attention. And as you're walking, just gently let yourself look a little left and a little right. Not a huge move, just a little move, just so you can notice if and how far down your spine you feel the subtle turning of your head. Just a little turning. The more we can make that connection through our entire spine, the less our head and neck will feel like orphans.
Shoulder feels a lot better too.
Amazing.
Why won't you come?
Amazing what happens with a little breathing.
I know, it is amazing. It is so simple like that.
So, well, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. And as I've said before, please feel free to join us at the Addison Township Center. Any Tuesday morning, we have class that starts at 9:30. You're more than welcome. With that, just keep on moving well.